Hello, my name is Melissa, and this is my channel, Healing the Hurt. We are doing another whiteboard analogy today on trust and boundaries. Complicated, complex topic. I'm not going to be able to delve into the depths of it in this short video, but we're going to give you an overview and just kind of give you some basics and some things to be thinking about, because it's complicated out there. It's complicated doing relationships. It's complicated trying to do relationships in a healthy, Christian, biblical way and still honor our own values, our own privacy, our own family. And there's a lot of questions that come up when we start doing relationship with other people. So I want to just give you a little bit of a model today and somewhere to start when thinking about trust and boundaries. So of course, if we're going to be talking about trust, we're going to start out with talking about trusting the Lord. The Bible is very clear about trusting the Lord. Just a couple verses on that topic. Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. And then it goes on to say, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act on your behalf. Evidence that we can trust him, or times we can trust him. When I'm afraid, I put my trust in you, in God, whose word I praise. In God I trust, I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me? God should have our trust. He is worthy of trust, and he is trustworthy. Today's topic is not about trusting God. It's not about boundaries with God. It is about trusting people, the people that are around us, and the boundaries that we should set to be healthy, so that we can be healthy and so that they can be healthy. The Bible talks about loving everyone. That's very important. 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins or trespasses against us and our boundaries. John 13:34 and 35 says, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. How many more times could it say that in one verse? However, love and trust are two very different things. We can love someone with the love of God. We can desire good things for them. We can hope that they receive salvation in their life. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have to trust them. In a different way, the Bible really promotes boundaries all throughout Scripture. But here's just a couple verses that help promote boundaries, and saying that just because we love everyone does not necessarily mean that everyone has the same access to us and to our heart. Colossians 4:6. I love Colossians, by the way. We'll probably be doing a series on that at some point. It says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Each person. That's not how you answer everybody. There's one answer for everybody. But this verse is kind of talking about each person may require a different approach, a different tone, a different seasoning to your presentation. And that doesn't mean that we're not genuine. It doesn't mean that you're fake or false if you use a different tone, or if you come at a conversation from a different perspective. It means you're aware of who you're talking to, and you're aware of what's effective for that relationship. Proverbs 22:24 says, make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor go with a wrathful man. That's a pretty clear boundary there that says someone who is given to anger and just prone to that. Proverbs warns us this is not someone to be in close relationship with. Set a healthy boundary for yourself. We love everyone, but here's a boundary that the Bible recommends in Proverbs. Titus 3:10 says, as for a person who stirs up division, after warning him once and then twice, have nothing more to do with him. So again, it's another boundary saying attempt reconciliation, attempt conversation, but if you don't see a change, it's okay to have nothing more to do with him. There are many other verses that we could read in the scripture and examples, illustrations of boundaries that God tells his people to set to keep us safe, to keep other people safe, and to be able to walk in health with each other. But when it comes to day-to-day life, that can be a little bit tricky. So let's talk through it just a little bit. When we first come into a relationship with someone, maybe we start a new job or starting a school, we are at a new church, we moved into a new neighborhood, we're going to the gym. There's a lot of opportunities that we have to meet people around us. And we come into that situation with our whole bag of things. And this is just, obviously we can't possibly mention every single topic, every single aspect of our identity that we go into relationships with, but I tried to pick kind of the high points. Our daily activities, our routine, what we do every day, weather talk, that's usually pretty safe. Pain, faith, our religion, our interests, our demographics, kind of information about our personal self and our family, our emotions, happy, sad, mad, our trauma, bad things that have happened to us. And it's easy if we're unfamiliar with setting boundaries, or if we never really learned how to trust, to just go into a new situation, all of this is just kind of swirling around inside of you. And it's like, what's going to come out? What am I going to say? What should I say? What's healthy? What's not healthy? What's appropriate? What's not? It can be very difficult. And if you're just learning how to set boundaries, or even that it's okay to set boundaries, you need a little bit of a structure to start with. So we're going to give you kind of a loose, workable structure today. This is not set in concrete. So nothing that I'm saying here is what I'm going to do exactly like she said in the video. This is to give you kind of a template to start working with. So let's take all these things off the board. And let's talk about boundaries with my handy whiteboard device here. All right, so we should all have different levels of boundaries with people. We're going to make this bottom boundary just a little bit thicker. That's healthy. It's healthy to have different levels of boundaries. When we meet someone, they shouldn't necessarily get the whole pack of who we are right up front. That's usually too much for people anyways. And it's just not a healthy stance, a healthy approach to take. So we're going to kind of break down our boundaries into 3 different categories. First of all, and boy, we didn't have to have this conversation 30, 40 years ago, online connections. So people that we meet through social media, through dating apps, through a Zoom, through a webinar, through something that we do online, someone that we have no in-person contact with, and possibly even someone that we have never seen them even online other than pictures. So this is a whole group of people that kind of has their own set of boundaries. It's when you're meeting someone on the internet. We are not talking about that group of people today. So that is kind of a separate set of boundaries. And I want to kind of keep it to our person-to-person relationships today. So we'll set that aside. Today, we're going to kind of break it down to 2 groups of people, friends and family. So the people that should be closest to us. And then just aside from that, people that we meet at businesses and organizations. So like I mentioned, work, church, school, gym, those type of relationships where we're just meeting someone and just getting to know them. Maybe even going out on a date or being at a coffee shop and meeting someone, whatever that entails when we're first coming into a situation of meeting someone face to face. Now I'm going to give another just separate topic here, and that is if you have family who is abusive, that is another category too. So when we're talking about family and friends today, we're talking about people that have your best interest at heart. They may not be the healthiest people because we're all human and we all have our things, but people that have your best at heart. Okay, so a couple things we need to consider when we are deciding what our boundaries should be. So this is kind of the top level, the surface level of information that we can share with most people. This goes a little bit deeper. So I'm getting to know someone, they're knowing a little bit more about me. And this is kind of the deepest part of who I am that I reserve for people who have earned a lot of trust. Because trust is not black and white. It's not either I trust that person or I don't trust that person. It's on a spectrum. And some people definitely have not earned any trust at all, and they're at that far end. And some people, maybe you're very close to them and you feel they're very trustworthy, and they're at the high end of the spectrum, and that's great. But you've got every kind of person in between and every different level of trust, where I may be able to trust you with, I may be able to trust you with information about my family, but I'm not necessarily going to tell you about my finances. Or I may be able to trust you with my projects at work and getting things done there, but I'm definitely not going to talk politics with you or faith or religion with you. So different levels of trust that we have for different people is completely fine. So some of the things that we need to consider: how long have I known this person? Maybe I've just met them, in which case they should be up here until they've earned some trust to get in past some of these other boundaries. What do I know about this person? Have I heard things that, do I have friends and family warning me about this person? Do I have maybe someone recommending that they're very trustworthy and they've been a very loyal friend to this other person? What do I know about them? We don't judge people based on rumors. That's an awful, awful idea, but it's like a little bit of a warning for us, one way or the other, good or bad, of what I can expect. And then we take that little bit of information and we assess the person on our own to determine, okay, was this somebody that just had a bad experience? Was this somebody that just had a great experience? Like, where does this person actually fall? So we don't want to dismiss completely what people say, especially people that we find credible and trustworthy. We don't want to dismiss what they say about someone, but we also don't want to etch it in stone and judge that person that we don't even know based on that information. So there's a little bit of a line, and the line is relational. The line has a lot to do with seeking the Lord, because we can trust him. He knows that person completely. And then also knowing what to share, when to share, and how to keep yourself safe in new relationships. What kind of relationship do you want to have with this person? Is this somebody that you're dating and you're hoping to spend the rest of your life with? Or is this someone that maybe you're working at an internship? You're only going to be there 6 months. You don't even know if you're ever going to see this person again. What kind of relationship do you want to have with them? Is it somebody at your church that you're in a life group with and you want to do community in life with them? Is it somebody at the gym that, let's just keep this at the gym, let's focus on working out, and I don't really have time for relationships outside of that, so let's keep it here? Think about what kind of relationship you want to have with them to help establish boundaries and to know what to share and what to reserve while that person earns trust, where your boundaries should be set. Okay, so we're going to categorize this as a high level of trust down here, medium level of trust, and a very low level of trust. Low level of trust isn't bad, could just mean it's a new person, that's fine. And people can move back and forth on it. Let's just read our first scenario. I just started a new job. How much information should I share with my coworkers about myself? Here, so let's take a couple. It's a little tricky, right? We just started a new job. We don't know them. They don't know us. We're not sure how to get along, how to work together the best. We have no idea if they're safe people or not safe people. The Bible tells us that as much as it's within our ability, we should live at peace with those around us. And so that's another good reason to start up here at a very low level of trust, a very low level of sharing information so that we can be at peace. And so we can kind of work into those deeper areas of conversation. So our very first topic that we have here is worries, things that we worry about. I'm going to say for an average healthy situation, this should probably be a medium level of trust before we share our worries with someone starting a new job with this scenario. Social media. I'm also going to say on this one, maybe right here, middle level. Let's get to know this person first. I don't even know if I'd want their feed scrolling through my feed. I don't know if I want to see that. I don't know if they need to know all the things I'm doing in my time off. So I'm going to put that here. Some of you might put that down here because I know a lot of people are very private about their social media. And again, this is for you to sort out, but this just kind of gives you some ideas. Weather, that's generally safe. It's generally a safe topic, not very sensitive. Doesn't take a whole lot of trust to say, hey, it's a beautiful day outside, which it is here, by the way. Daily activities, my routine, my daily activities. This one's a little tricky. I think it could go either place. But I'm going to put it down here. I don't necessarily think telling everybody your daily routine when you don't know them. You don't need to know that much detail about you. There's another one in here that's similar, and that's interest. My interest and hobbies, that's totally fine. You can know I like to go to the gym, but I don't know if I necessarily want everyone knowing I go there exactly at 7:00 every, Tuesday and Thursday, because you still know we got to be cautious. Hopes and dreams. For a lot of people, that's here. You got to earn a little bit of my trust before I'm going to share my hopes and dreams with you. It's a new workplace. I have no idea. Maybe my hope and dream is to be promoted to vice president. And as it turns out, that's what my coworker wants too. They've been there 10 years and now I'm the enemy. That's not good. So we got to kind of build relationships first and get to know people and let them get to know us before we go into maybe a deeper part of our heart. For many of you, hopes and dreams may be down here in the deepest, the highest level of trust. And that's completely fine, wherever you're comfortable with it. Mad, angry, or very excited, very, very happy about something. I'm just because this could be mid-level, but I'm actually going to put it down here in earning a lot of trust, especially if it's in a work environment, because work environments, they typically like to maintain this level of being very professional and whatever service you're providing, doing that well. And a lot of intense emotions like that can be something that you really need to earn trust with, not the whole office place, but with a coworker or two coworkers. And if they're able to earn your trust to this high place, then it's okay to be mad about something, especially if it's work related, something that happened at work. They're not going to mistake that. Trauma. Your past trauma, I'm going to say, is pretty much always going to go down here. And people have to earn your trust, be at a high level of trust with you before they know details about your trauma. That's very, very personal information. Sad. So that's an interesting emotion. Where would you put sad before I put it on there? Is that somebody that you just met, sad and happy? You can kind of know that. Is that a medium level of trust? Would that be a very high level of trust? I would say for a lot of people, this goes here. When we're sad, we're typically in a little bit of a more vulnerable place. And sharing that sadness with someone can be a little bit more vulnerable. And remember, we're talking about a work setting here, new coworkers, professional place. Doesn't mean that you fake being happy by any means. But it also doesn't mean that if you're having a rough day, that everybody needs to know the details of that. It's okay to say some details and not necessarily open your heart and pour out the sadness. It's a balance, but it's worth it to work it out. Faith, your religion, your faith. Now, this one too, just depends on your situation. There's a lot of people that are going to come in with it and be like, this is a big part of who I am. And I want everybody to know that I follow Christ. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, especially if your workplace knows that up front. Your workplace may have some policies about what you can talk about and what you can't, which is fine. Their workplace, their policies, you signed on, kind of like Jesus said with taxes, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So know what your work policies are. Some people have that up here. Some people have that down here. And they're like, I want to know. I don't want to offend someone before I delve into my faith. And I don't think that that's hypocritical. I think that's just being cautious, and that's living at peace with people. It's not burying it down here that says, you're not even going to know. You're not even going to know I'm a Christian unless you really earn my trust. This mid-level is okay. The Bible tells us they'll know that we are his sons and daughters by our love, by the fruit of the Spirit that we demonstrate. And we can demonstrate fruit of the Spirit up here where people know there's something different. And as soon as they strike up that conversation with you, bam, they're coming down here where you can share and pour that out to them. Pain. I'm going to put pain down here with trauma. Again, mostly because we're in a workplace and we want to be respectful of what's going on around us. And that's not typically a place where our pain should be healed or should be brought or should be expressed. We can talk about things that are difficult to the right person at work, but pain is something that's really a deeper level of trust. Happy is generally pretty safe. We're going to put that up here for the workplace, just starting out. Demographics, that's kind of another interesting one. Where all you've lived, how long you've lived there, different jobs that you've had. A lot of that comes in with your application to work. So a lot of people may already know a lot of this about you. There's also privacy that we want to respect about ourselves, about our family. So I feel like this could go either way for this new person starting a job. We're going to put it up here just because a lot of that is involved in getting your job and information they need to know about you. So look how we've sorted this out. We've got up here someone that has a low level of trust with them. We don't know them very well. We're just meeting them. Someone with a medium level of trust. Okay, I've been working with them on a few projects. I see them every day. We share an office space, so we talk a lot. And yeah, I'm willing to let them into these topics because I've gotten to know them and I know that they're safe enough for these topics. And then down here, a high level of trust. And this high level of trust, speaking of the workplace, I would say can really probably most effectively be earned outside of the workplace. So that would be someone who maybe you go out to dinner with once a week after work, or maybe you guys grab lunch together, you get coffee, maybe you end up going to the same church, you go to church together where you're doing things outside of the workplace. Then I would say down here, maybe they're safe enough to come into these topics with you. So again, speaking workplace, this isn't everybody in the workplace. You're going to have different people that earn your trust. And you're going to have other people that stay right up here. And that's okay. It's not, again, being not genuine or not your true self. It's just truly honoring these boundaries that you're setting to say parts of who I am, parts of me, they're very valuable. And I don't need to give them to someone that doesn't feel safe to me. They can work towards earning that. So this is a workplace example. Again, different people, a lot of people would have this way down here. They would have this up here. This would be down here. And then I know that this is a thing for some people, so we'll put that down there. Some people may go into work like this. It's completely fine. This is to give you a framework for how you can decide, how do I interact with people? I'm just wanting healthy relationships. I don't know how to set boundaries. This is just a framework to play with. Okay, let's do one more scenario. Let's see, I have several on here, but this is going a little longer than I anticipated, which I should have known because this is just complex. This is really complex. Okay, let's do. Okay, we may do two more. Let's do this one. I met a new friend at the gym or at school. It's been great to have a buddy, a homework buddy, a workout buddy, somebody to do that thing together wherever you met them. We seem to have a lot of things in common, but we really only talk about exercise, traveling, and a few other surface topics. How do I know if this person would be a good friend outside of the gym? And how do I know if they're safe to get to know? Okay, so let's think about it in the context of all of our topics here. Just met them. I'm getting to know them. Maybe we work out together on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. Maybe we go to school, we sit in class together, we do some homework together, high school, college. We are trying to figure out Are they safe? Can I trust them? How much can I trust them? What areas can I trust them? First off, you've already got interests in common because you're doing something together. You're doing an activity together that you both like. So that totally stays up here. Faith, again, I think that's completely fine to share that right off the bat. You're not in a workplace that has policies and that has boundaries set for you in that regard. So faith is a great thing to talk about there. Happy, things that make you happy, things that make you excited. Weather, that's pretty much always safe. Sad, I think we can move sad up here again because, you know, if you have a bad workout, if you're having a rough day, if you don't want to go work out, that sadness is going to come up. Maybe not your pain, maybe that can stay down here, but still you can talk about, hey, this just bummed me out. I can't believe we got that assignment again. Can you believe we have to do a group project? This workout is killing me. Where did this professional trainer come from and when are they going away? Whatever it is, there's a lot of emotion that you can experience when you're doing something with someone in the context of an activity together. Daily activities, maybe I'd still say let's get to know them a little bit better before they know our routine and the things that we do every day. Demographics, I think, can stay here. I feel like worries are going to come out naturally, but they need to be earned a little bit. I put hope and dreams back up here. Social media, I'm going to put social media up there. So these would be easy things to talk about with someone that we're doing an activity with. Here, I want to know, so they're safe at the gym, they're safe at school, they seem like a fine person. I'd like to know a little bit more about their outside world before I dig a little deeper into mine. So maybe as we're talking about faith a little bit, I'm finding out, do we have that in common? Do they have some beliefs and some practices that maybe I think are wrong or that don't align with the values that I'm teaching my family, my children? How much do I want that into this to influence this? Who we dig into relationships with, who we build relationships with, will have influence on us. And we become who we spend the most time around. And we have to be cautious of that. And that doesn't mean that we're not friends with people. We can be friends with people with kind of this low level of trust and a boundary here. But as you start letting them go deeper, they will have more influence on you and you will have more influence on them. One of the cautions I would give you in a casual relationship, like what we're talking about here, just a friendship that's building, is if you're in relationship with someone and you find that they're earning your trust and they've got a pretty high level of trust with you, consider how much they trust you. Are they staying up here in their topics? Or are they letting you in deeper as well? Is this a mutual relationship? Or is this one where you're going pretty high trust pretty quick and they're still kind of talking the weather? Because you want your relationship to be balanced. You want your relationship to be healthy and not to kind of tip one way, because that's going to create some dynamics that will be difficult for both of you. Okay, let's do one more example. This is a common one that I work with when I talk with people. I've had a really difficult life. I had a lot of trauma that I really didn't understand until I started counseling. I was also cautious around people. And now that I know my story, I understand why. I want to have friends. I want to feel connected and like I belong somewhere, but I have no idea how or if it is even possible. I feel like I'm lying if I don't tell everyone everything about me up front. I don't know what to do. And a real concern, a real issue. If you grow up with childhood abuse or with a lot of trauma, you do not learn trust and boundaries. And you may not even know that you can set those. You learn that you can't say no. You learn that you just have to comply and you just have to go along with whatever's happening, answer any question you ask, be available for whatever. Or you shut down and you come out of that trauma going, nobody is safe, nothing is safe. So my double boundaries are up here, nobody gets to know anything here. And that's a very hard way to live too. And honestly, very, I would say nearly impossible to maintain unless you completely isolate in your home. But when you grow up like that, you have to start your boundaries slow. And you definitely have to start your trust slow. I've heard people say, I don't trust anyone. I'm not capable of trust. It's like, oh, I get the message behind that. But let's start with maybe there's somebody you trust on some level. So maybe you trust your landlord not to kick you out as long as you pay your rent. That's some trust. That's some trust. Now, if your landlord's a jerk and you're like, they may kick me out anyways, then, well, they probably don't need your trust as it is. Usually we trust some people to do at least some things. So we take that, we look for that, and we build on that. Because what we want is to be able to build trust in a very safe way. So if you've got a lot of trauma, it's hard. The other thing is it's hard to know what's okay to share and what's not. Because again, remember that first picture when everything was all jumbled? That's how we go into relationships, and it's hard to know what should be here and what shouldn't be here. So if you have a lot of trauma, often emotions go right down to that deep place. Sometimes happy can still be up there. We'll leave happy up there. I feel like most people are comfortable operating in that. Faith tends to go down here. Interests are hard. Often people with trauma are not even really sure what their interests are. So I'm actually going to take that one off the board. Daily activities can go down here for sure. Weather and happy. I think that's what we've got. Weather and happy. Let's see. Definitely, these all should be at the high level of trust. Medium level of trust. Social media, and I would guard that. I'm actually going to move that down here because that's hard to tell when you have trauma, how safe someone would be on social media if maybe their feed is completely fine, nothing wrong or immoral or anything, but maybe it just has offensive, or not offensive, but triggering things in there that would activate that trauma response and kind of get you going. And so I think it's okay to put social media down here. Hopes and dreams can feel very personal. We're going to put that down here. Daily activities, I think with some discretion, that's probably okay. Things that you're worried about, that's probably okay to go here. Your demographics, maybe a little bit about your life, where you're from. That's not your trauma story. That's just some basic, do we have things in common, some basic demographics. So we've got a few things here that someone can kind of earn your trust to get down here. In fact, I would even say if someone earned your trust this far, I'm going to move sadness up here. Maybe you can talk about your sadness up here. These things tend to be a little bit more intense for trauma survivors. And it's okay if it takes someone more work to earn your trust to get to this point. That's completely fine. As you can see, trust and boundaries is an ever-moving process. And it's not cut and dry. It's not black and white. You're going to have to work through this for you, for who you are. If you are starting out in square one of trust and boundaries, you don't have to get a whole whiteboard like me with fancy little cards, but get a notebook, make a list. What would be on your cards? What would be on your cards? What information about you? What feelings? What thoughts? What activities? Make a list and then draw a picture. Get some boundaries, low level of trust. This is what I feel comfortable sharing with most people. This takes a little bit more trust. This is the highest level of trust. I'm going to add one up here. I'll just write it in since I don't have another card for it. I'm going to add two things actually. I'm going to add pets. Pets is usually a pretty safe thing that we can talk to new people about. That's fun. They're cute. You probably got a picture if they're there. And then I'm going to add down here family information, especially with trauma. I've worked with people who don't talk with members of their family because they were abusive and because of the trauma. And that can feel kind of awkward and confusing when someone's asking you, so where do your parents live? And you're like, you don't know what to say. It's fine if somebody has to earn that information a little bit. It's fine. You can just say something. You can say where they live, change the subject. You can say, yeah, I'm not in a lot of contact with them. That's a long story for another time. That's a good conversation ender right there. That's a long story for another time. And just let it be, especially in the workplace. But in a lot of settings, that's completely fine to do. And if you have trauma, anyone, not just if you have trauma, but trauma survivors usually need to know this. You don't have to answer any question about yourself that you are not comfortable with. I'm a counselor. People come and I ask people questions in my office that I probably would not ask face to face because I'm trying to help them and I'm really digging into their personal stuff. But I always tell people you don't have to answer. If I ask a question, you're not comfortable with it, or I see you're uncomfortable, like you don't have to answer that if you don't want to. It's okay. Or maybe they'll say, oh, I don't want to say. That's fine. You don't have to say. Even me, I'm your counselor, but you don't have to tell me if you're uncomfortable. You have to be safe with yourself. One last topic for you on this, or one last thought for you. Sometimes you're unsure. Sometimes people ask you a question about something to do with your life, and you think about it, and you're like, I want to tell you because I want relationship. I feel like everyone's talking about this. Everybody has an answer here in the room but me. I want to say, but I don't want to say. Take a minute and really think about that. And if you don't want to say, you kind of have to weigh which one is a little bit stronger. Because it may be perfectly fine information to give, but it may just feel unsafe. Are you at the place of healing and growth where you're able to take a risk and kind of put it out there? Or is that trigger, that feeling of safety so strong that you need to respect that? You need to honor your own body, soul, and spirit that is sending up red flags. Honor it. It's okay. It's okay to withhold. And it's okay if the other person doesn't understand, because that's their issue. That's not your issue. I encourage you, as you're setting these boundaries and as you're thinking about trusting people and building relationships with people, bring the Lord into that. Just like these verses that we read, He has good plans for you. Jeremiah 29:11. Plans for good and not evil, plans to give you a hope in the future. There's no fear in Him. 1 John 4:18. His perfect love casts out all our fear. He will keep us in perfect peace when our mind is stayed on Him, because we trust in Him. That trust in the Lord can help bring us peace when people don't understand our boundaries, or when people are trying to, they feel like they've earned this. Maybe I've told you my high level trusting, so now you should tell me your story. Yeah, it doesn't really work that way. It doesn't work that way. You need to feel safe with it. You need to be able to move forward in a way that's okay for you. We've done this, it's been a little longer than I anticipated. If you're overwhelmed by it, if you're like, goodness, I knew I couldn't do this before, and now I definitely know I can't do this, talk to somebody. You need more than this video to help you work through it. And that's okay. This is a lifelong process. And you know what? Even if somebody gets down here and then you find out this is not the safe person I thought they were, it's okay to bring them up a level. It's okay to set a boundary and say, okay, I was giving you this much information, but now let's move up here for a little bit so I can feel safe again. You can earn that trust back. Maybe we move up here till you can earn that trust back. And we'll see, maybe they don't earn the trust back. Maybe it's a relationship that you don't need to have in your life. That's okay too. Very flexible, not set in stone. Something you can grow into, and something that the Lord would be happy to walk you through as you trust Him, as you listen to that still small voice, and you listen and be aware of what's going on in your own heart and your own mind. All right, I'd be interested for feedback on this topic in particular. If there's another part of trust and boundaries that you'd like me to go a little bit deeper into, feel free to comment on that, or message me and let me know, because I'd be happy to help sift this out. Obviously, it's a big topic. It's going to take a little bit of work. I'm not going to be able to figure it out overnight, but starting is really good. All right, thank you for watching Healing the Hurt. This is our whiteboard analogy on trust and boundaries. Hope you're able to implement some of the tools, and I look forward to seeing you next time.